All right, I think we're all good to go. Before we jump into the content, I want to say thank you for joining this call and choosing to spend your time with me learning about the next wave of AI with autonomous agents. That's already immediately the title of this webinar, the next wave of AI agents. My name is Tim. I work for Biztory as a technical consultant, and I will be your host for today. I hope you will learn a thing or two about agents, because I don't know where you have been the last few weeks and months, but we see it popping up everywhere. I think it's time to dive a little bit in and unpack what it is all about. Now, first of all, I would like to start with a personal note. Why am I here today? And it's a story about when I first met my first autonomous agent. I think it should be somewhere in the summer of 1989, where I was sitting with my father watching a movie. He wasn't sure if he should show me, but I don't know anybody recognized the screenshots, but it was Arnold Schwarzenegger walking into a bar as the Terminator. And from that moment on, I got familiar with the concept of a robot slash an autonomous agent. So for the movie lovers, yes, the screenshot is from the second one in 91, but that's where it all started for me. All right, the next wave of AI transformation has already begun. So typically is being divided into a few different waves. Wave one, seen as the predictive wave, was a few years ago, where we saw all these features, techniques, models being brought into software everywhere, statistical models, and this is called the predictive wave. Now, as you might have noticed, and it's everywhere because even my parents are using ChatGPT these days, we have arrived in what's called the next wave of analytics, called the so-called generative one. What the distinction is remains very important, and we'll dive into that in a bit. Now, what the topic is about, autonomous agents, that's where we are going at. And if you ask me, where do we sit today? Well, we're probably somewhere between wave 2 and 3, where we see that the functionalities are there, the computational power is there, and we are migrating, moving slowly but certainly towards working environments where algorithms slash agents start to perform tasks, so-called autonomous agents. You might have seen this slide before. Sometimes it even speaks about a wave 4 and a wave 5, where wave 4 then is considered general intelligence, where the computer becomes equally smart as us humans. Now, before we proceed, and I notice it during a lot of conversations we have with our clients, that the distinction is not always very clear about what is generative AI and what is predictive AI. And at the end of the day, these two types will flow into each other. But, and you probably have AI slash data science projects in your own company, when you, a few months or years ago, were talking about doing better forecasts, making a better lead scoring algorithm, or building a customer segmentation, you were leveraging the power of techniques that already have been among us, maybe as early as the 50s or the 60s or earlier, but it was really the moment that the capacity and the computational power was increasing that all these so-called tools came in the hands of the working population, in the hands of leaders, CEOs, to make better decisions. So here we see on the left side things such as classification, forecasting, etc., etc. Now on the right side, generative AI, which has a lot of potential. It's everywhere in the media. It's about generating new content. Things such as generating a text, maybe even generating images or sounds, because the first software that can generate music is also there. So when you see features like summarization, translation, simple answering questions, then we are in the corner of generative AI. There's a lot to say about that, because the first thing people know about is that it can hallucinate, because it tries to generate an answer for you. Now, what we will also see in the following slides is how vendors such as Salesforce invest a lot of resources in making it trustable, consistent, and knowing your business. Because we all know ChatGPT, it's a very broad answering machine, let's say, but it's really making it contextualized, making it knowing your business, making it knowing your procedures that will actually behave it as something useful, functional, and make it time saving or adding value to your company. Now, with the risk of oversimplifying a little bit, those who have been using Salesforce or have been looking at the product stack, Salesforce has had already since 2013, 2014, invested a lot in making low-code, easy-to-use tools to leverage all these possibilities. So when I put Einstein on the left side, I'm referring to the prediction builder, Einstein Studio, the lead scoring functionalities. They were all focused on making it easier for you to bring these predictive capabilities to your org, to your organization, and to the processes in your business. On the right side, we see the Agentforce logo, which can be, if you make a rough classification, be associated with the whole generative AI capabilities. Now, in reality, and I will talk about it later, we will see that these two will flow into each other, because we're seeing that, of course, sometimes you might think, oh, GenAI is only capable of generating text. That's not entirely true. A generative autonomous agent is capable of leveraging predictive capabilities as well. So actually all the good stuff that was arriving to the working place will be coming together in the context of Agentforce in this case. So AI is becoming autonomous, and that means predictive, generative, and autonomous features are more and more becoming combined. Combined as in available where you work. In a tiny bit, I will dive into a Salesforce org and show you, but also, and maybe you use Teams, or maybe you use Slack, and here you see in front of us, Agentforce Sprint Planner, the Agentforce Service Agent. We have already a few agents that make our work easier and faster. It's expected that these agents and autonomous agents will start working together with us humans in performing our everyday work. So here, again, examples, the predictive forecasting, lead scoring. Won't an agent be capable of giving you insights in certain leads? Yes, it will, and it will be capable of leveraging the predictive capabilities. But indeed, the UI, how you will conversate with it. So give me an example. I'm here in Salesforce, and I say hi. It will initiate a conversation with me. And having said that, now what's the difference of having these agents from within the software versus what you know from GPT? Well, it's made for a specific purpose or multiple purposes. As we will see later on, agents will have permissions, but they will have a very narrow scope. So if I would ask ChatGPT, what is your favorite music, or can you reset my password? It will start generating all these answers. Whereas if I would do that in my business context, I don't even want an agent, unless you explicitly want to do, to even try to accomplish that task. So we will see also later on, Salesforce is heavily invested in setting up the so-called trust layer, that what is being asked is evaluated by who is asking the questions, maybe even where and when. What I first had when I started working with these copilots and agents is, what can they do for me? So, for example, what can you do for me is a valid question, because I don't know what this agent has been learned to do so. He's answering me. So for example, I can help you with various tasks related to Salesforce. And this is really one of the added value. My agent can know my organization. For those who are using Salesforce, yes, it knows your account object. Yes, it knows your leads, your opportunities objects. So everything I input from the right side, if I'm allowed to, based on my permissions, will get answered based on my business context. And there's this one example to really show you what that grounding really means, or dynamic grounding. Let's say, for example, if I go to my opportunities tab, and I am working as I normally do, and I do not need to type summarize, opportunity, advanced communications, new business, etc. I can say summarize this case. Oh, this live demos, things will go wrong. But let's see. There you go. I have not even mentioned about which opportunity it is. The agent knows where I am, who I am, what I'm capable of doing. And that makes working with it way lighter than providing all the context constantly, because the context is just there. All right, back to the slides. There with Autonomous, you see nurture leads, customer support, and create sales plans. That actually means that we go one step further from the Copilot. The Copilot is, and let's be honest, I have ChatGPT as an app on my computer, already helping me in my daily job in accomplishing some stuff. I have a PDF of 150 pages. I don't have the time. Summarize it for me, and you will get the idea of what the message is. Autonomous, on the other hand, I got asked, what is the definition of autonomous? Well, it can get work done. It has agency on your environment and your objects. For example, a customer starts talking with one of your agents and asks, hello, what's the status of my order? Retrieving the status is a read operation. But imagine that you will allow your agent to also deal and make actions on your data. Then that agent could have the capabilities of rescheduling the order, canceling the order, updating values. So you are within the guardrails and the safety of your environment. You will give it the possibilities to actually change things in your system. Most use cases we see now in Biztory are mostly from a service point. We have a lot of questions, repetitive questions, in which we are investing a lot of time, but where we really want to save time, outsource the tasks we humans, after all those years, maybe are not so keen anymore to do so. In all honesty, when I'm at my clients, I mostly work with Tableau and Salesforce. Can you please reset my password? Will I envy the bot that he will do that for me? No, I won't. So it's really interesting to see what can be offloaded as a workload to the agent and what is our place in there as a human. All right, let's move on. What are AI agents? Now, the good thing about AI agents is the general framework, how you set these things up, is more or less the same. Of course, it all sits in how well is it executed, how safe is it, how configurable is it, and not unimportantly, does it scale? Because those copilots I should show you can help me with doing my work, but what if I need to respond to 50, 60 people simultaneously on my website and dealing with those? So agents do scale, they never sleep, obviously. So in those kind of situations, they can be very interesting in offloading work to an agent. Because you might have spent time and resources on chatbots, and they probably worked. Now, how these chatbots were set up, they were basically based on these rather rigid logic of, if this happens, then respond this to your customer. It was a hideous task to set up because you really needed to write down, if they say this, then answer that. And it was a very rigid experience. The moment you say something the chatbot was not programmed to, it would throwing off the conversation, and probably your customer or your client will have a rather bad experience. Now, with the arrival of copilots and agents, they have more reasoning capabilities. They can deal with way more situations. We will dive into how that exactly works. But the whole idea is that it knows your business. It has the ability to plan and reason. And as I just said, that it can also scale. Now, it's magic when it works, but it's not an out-of-the-box easy thing to set up, because your processes come first. You cannot say, let's make an agent and maybe you should do this, should do that. Really think about, what do I want to change in my organization? Where are we losing time? Where do we see the value add? And it will be confronting, because for a long while, maybe for the first time in a long while, you will again need to sit down. What do we want to get done? Making those diagram flows, or trying to recover them from maybe you've written stuff down in the last few years, because at the end of the road, an agent is very good at interacting with you, but at the most granular level will come and end with capabilities, permissions, where can the agent look into, and what is he allowed to act upon. And then yeah, it becomes a matter of really writing that down and planning from that way up. Now, for those who haven't seen the Copilot, a few examples. I showed you, summarize this case to show the dynamic grounding, but it can also count. So if I go to my opportunities, view, how many opportunities do I have? So it not only can generate text, it can also perform calculations on your org. I'm doing this in an SDO, which is slightly slower than in a real production environment, but the answer should pop up any minute now. So there you go, 683 opportunities. Let's make it a little bit more complex. What are my 3 ops based on amount? Another advantage of GenAI is that it's quite forgiving from the input side, because it knows that probably with ops, you mean opportunities. And he has the capability, he is allowed to peek into your column with amount. And then he comes back to me with my search result. Number 1, 250,000, 187,000, and 155,000. And let's check whether that actually is correct. So here indeed, you see, if I would have sorted my opportunities, he has correctly retrieved my opportunities and has taken a numerical evaluation into account. When you work in Salesforce, historically, you would click and navigate a lot. How I see this evaluating the evolution will be more in, it's the core, it's where the data sits, but how you interact with it probably increasingly will be outside of the classic CRM. Could you imagine yourself having your org record notifications from outside of your CRM? Absolutely. If you want to trigger changes from Slack, from Teams, from anywhere, this is possible today. Now, the 2 little examples I gave here are heavily focused on the very classic objects that sit in your org. What is very strong, and there's too much to unpack there, is if you historically have invested in setting up a knowledge base, knowledge articles, how you do business in terms of procedures, what to do when. For example, imagine you put this agent somewhere and you give it to your customers, or your employee doesn't know. Do we ship to Italy? He doesn't know. Let me try again. Maybe this knowledge article doesn't sit in this SDO. My apologies for that. No, okay, it doesn't know. But what I want to show is if the knowledge article is there, it will be able to retrieve the answer and actually giving insights in the procedures of your company. Another little example, my colleague Brenda is sick and I'm taking over her cases. What was Brenda working on? Can you give me a brief one-line text summary where Brenda was working on, for example? Again, live demo. Hopefully it goes well. Okay. So nice. Here are the open cases assigned to Brenda. The agent has a capability of looking into the cases. He can check the statuses and he can deal with my request to summarize what is happening there. Now, in this case, indeed, he is providing me with subject lines what the case is about. So instead of calling Brenda, who is sick, instead of browsing, I here have a nice overview of the cases that Brenda was working with. Also, last example before we continue, you had a meeting, you met with one of the contacts of your accounts. They told you, hey, I lost my phone, this is my new number, can you change that please? And also draft a quick mail that I have updated her in the system. So let's see how that goes. So he finds the contact, he retrieves the phone number, and he asks me as human in the loop to confirm this change. And this is really nice because then the agent is doing the administrative work I don't have the time for. If I would click confirm, the record would get updated in the backend. Okay, back to the slides. So when you start thinking about all of this, make a distinction between copilots, which are there with your workers to help them accomplishing their daily tasks. As you can see from the slide, they work alongside individuals. They take instructions from the user. They act on behalf of the user and also oriented to help him. That's a one-on-one setting, a private setting, a safe setting, and you can consider them as functional generalists. Now we're seeing we're moving towards autonomous business assistants, working alongside teams, not on the personal level. If you have Slack or you have Teams or any messaging system, the agent can enter the chat room and can help people with getting the work done. They act on behalf of the business. They can be goal-oriented. They also will have personas, like you're a service agent, you're a sales agent, etc., etc. And they can be trained to become actual functional specialists, because in the first use case you will use it, you probably will expect them to have like one or multiple purposes, but we'll come to that in a little bit. So for example, and I'm going to our Slack environment. So here I am in Slack, in the Agentforce integration for Slack. In front of us, we see 3 agents. So for example, this little service agent, I said do not touch because I have a webinar today to let my colleagues know to definitely not do some funky stuff on our demo environment. So imagine that I'm a client and this is really to show you that the channel really can be anywhere. It can be WhatsApp, it can be a text message. In the future, with voice coming, it can even be phone calls. For example, what's the status of my order? Service agent will now, if everything goes well, peek into my org and first of all, who are you? There are authentication systems, but for this little example, I will be bbarra@example.com with one of my orders. Where is the package I ordered on Saturday night? Is it being shipped or not? There you go. Your order has been shipped. It is scheduled to be delivered, blah, blah, blah. Imagine I regret the order. I hope the company will appreciate that I cancel it while it's already been shipped. And I'm gonna add my voice for extra demo juice. Hello, can you please order my cancel my order? I regret the purchase. I want to see it canceled. The order will check my intent, and he informs me your order has been successfully canceled. If you need any further assistance, feel free to ask. Just a little example of an autonomous agent in Slack dealing with me, in my case, wanting to change my order or even cancel it. Let's continue. In the meanwhile, if you would have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. This slide. If you're going to remember one thing from this presentation, taking this back to your organization, to your team, let it be this. Because if you're reasoning, how do I start? How do we start reasoning about what we want? These 5 pillars really are key to becoming successful. It is the role. What job should your agent do? What is his purpose? And you literally will have the need to describe it. You are a sales agent. You are a service agent. You are a movie recommendation system. And whenever somebody asks you for a good movie, that's his role. How do you want him to behave? What's his purpose? And secondly, and this is the weak spot for a lot of companies, is, again, you know the drill, garbage in, garbage out. Don't expect, if your data isn't ready for it, that you will make amazing agents. Data quality, even more in the age of AI, is very important. Make sure your data is reachable. Make sure your data is cleaned. It will only facilitate the setting up of your first agents. Then, actions. So when you talk with an agent, like I just did, like, hey, what's the status of my order? The first thing it tries to do is classify your intent. The person that is speaking with me, what is he trying to get done from me? And if that's something you don't want him to react to, that will also be built into the agent. Now, the cool thing is, Salesforce has done a wonderful job with that, is making sure that most of it, if it's not allowed, it will be considered going off topic. So if I would ask, what is your favorite music, which is totally irrelevant question, I don't expect the agent to answer that. You see the answers, but he's not really to try to go into the conversation with me. Whereas if you would ask this to ChatGPT, he probably will do his very best to have a nice conversation with you. Maybe this is maybe a little example, but you don't want people to be able to reset passwords when your agent is not allowed to do so. Then, guardrails. As I said, what should the agent not do? Equally important than defining what he needs to do, because otherwise he might act upon stuff you don't want to. And then last but not least, channel. Where does the agent work? Do you want it to deal with text, WhatsApp, Teams? With the arrival of the agent APIs, you can literally put the Salesforce agents everywhere. All right. Now, what is Agentforce? And I'm a consultant, so I really want to show you how it looks in Salesforce. And my key take on these kind of things always is the more boring the initial interface, the more capabilities the software probably has. And I say that because I've spent my time as a consultant for more than 10 years now as a Tableau consultant. This is how Tableau looks at first and say, oh, doesn't look very capable. Believe me, if it looks boring at first sight, the capabilities are endless. And that's a little bit the same I have with Agent Builder. So where does it sit? If you go to the top right of your screen, we can go to setup. Of course, when you have the licenses under setup, you will find agent. And I'm just for demo purposes, I'm going to open the default one. Or no, let's take the Agentforce service agent. What do we see here? The agent has a name, obviously. It has a description, deliver personalized customer interactions, etc. And here you see it, the role. You are an AI customer service whose job it is to help customers with support questions or other issues. What kind of topics? Literally, in this humble case, case management and general frequently asked questions. Then here the welcome message, the language. Okay, maybe also interesting to mention, I'm Dutch speaking, Dutch is available. Salesforce is heavily investing, making sure that the agent can correspond in the language of the user who is interacting with it. And then here, connections. This is where you can set it up with the whole service logic, connecting it with your Slack, etc. But what I want to show you is, I'm going to open Agent Builder. And on the left side, you see the topics. Because whenever I say something, for example, what is the status of my case, the reasoning engine will try to identify what I am asking. And the middle pane here is very, very, very important. It's really, if you make something, you want to debug this, if you want to fine tune it, the middle pane here is of key relevance. So you see it identifies my question as leveraging the case management topic. Again, if I would ask a question like, do we ship to Italy? Which he didn't know. So I'm actually curious what he will return here. Okay, he doesn't know the answer, we knew that, but he selects the correct topic. He sees, oh, this guy is asking me a frequently asked question. And you can dive into how he deals with the topic. If the customer question is too vague or general, ask for more details and clarification to give a better answer. Never provide generic information, advice, or troubleshooting steps unless retrieved from searching knowledge articles. So this is where we prevent the hallucination. It's saying be grounded, be knowledge-based. Third one, include sources in the response when available. So if the knowledge article is available, the URLs will be provided so the user can click on it and go reading for himself. Now, how does it look in the actual UI? So for example, the general frequently asked questions. Here you see the classification description and the scope of what he is allowed to do for the topic. Your job is to solely help with issues and answer questions about the company, its products, and its procedures. And then come the instructions. The instructions are very important because that is where you really can tell the agent how to deal with the interactions. Now, those are you who are more interacting with Salesforce on a more technical level. At the end of the road, it's about permissions and actions. And if you can see, these are the instructions of my agent. But there is, of course, always a capability that goes with it. Let me check whether I have some more to show here. No. Let me quickly log in. Oh, I'm logged into another one. Go to another agent where I can really show you the actions. So I go back into my agent builder. And I will open up this one. Agent for setup. No, the other one. open up the configuration of the agent. Dismiss. So for example, order inquiries. The topic is order inquiries. In the instructions, you give the agent how you should deal with it, but what he is actually capable of doing data technically is by giving him access to actions. So here you see get order by order number, get orders by contact, cancel order. These actions can be linked to so-called prompts or the Salesforce flows you know today. If you give him the instructions of launching the flows, he then technically will be able of retrieving that kind of information. Now, for those who haven't seen the prompts, that is where at one of the lowest granularity, you specify how he should deal with specific input. So when you use Agent Builder, Prompt Builder will be a very important aspect of it as well. And for those who haven't seen it, let's open one. So for example, when you ask the agent, give me the summary of a specific account, what does actually happen under the hood? And this is actually a nice example because this is quite extensive one immediately. I'll let it load. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit. Maybe it is a little bit small for you guys. So in the middle, you see the following input is divided into two sections, instructions and data. So on the prompt level, you will also specify how to behave and with which data to deal with. And now it becomes interesting. You will receive a JSON description of a CRM account. And if you scroll down, actually this, let me try another one. This is not the greatest example. Let me give, I'm going back to my other one. Because I want to show you how it really takes in the Salesforce fields. For example, lead summary is a good one. And in case I lost you, we're actually doing the things we're doing in ChatGPT, but giving it context. Let's exaggerate a little bit. If I say, what is my highest opportunity? Well, he doesn't know. But the grounding, and that's really your Salesforce context. So opportunity A is 100, opportunity B is 200. The prompt gets launched with context of your Salesforce environment. So you see, he evaluates it and says opportunity B is your highest one. Now, what do we see here? Instructions. Summarize the lead record based on the data below. And this is where the magic happens. So you're saying, get the lead name, get the lead ID, get the lead company, get the lead title, when it was created, what was the source, what is the status, what is the score. And if you provide that information to the prompt and then somebody asks you, summarize it, and this is the beauty about Prompt Builder, you can actually execute it where you are and click preview. He is now summarizing for me the lead. Now, don't get thrown off by the funky symbols here, because what is overlooked a lot, even by very technical people, is it cannot only output just plain text. It can answer with code, with enriched text, to be used wherever you want, in your Salesforce org, somewhere on your website, for those not really familiar with what this does. So if we would take this piece of output and put it in a rich HTML editor, you see The title is in bold. It has a hyperlink with it. If I click on it, I would go to the lead of Den House, etc., etc. Just to recap, in a prompt, you specify what it does, what the instructions are, and you refer to pieces of data it should act upon. Now, all of that is encapsulated in the wider ecosystem of Data Cloud, of course. And you can also make use of the most modern evolutions in terms of the LLMs, GPT-4, the older ones, the newer ones. You can even bring your own model, but that's for another webinar, I guess. You can choose whether it should answer in a formal way, in an informal way. So it's really, really pretty configurable from the bottom to the end. All right. This is one of the ones to show you what is Agentforce. It's a place where you build your agents. And a lot more, but time is too short for that. Recap, Agentforce is a set of tools. It's not one tool. It is, let's be honest, an orchestration in a beautiful way. And when done right, it does feel like magic. Agent Builder is the core. It's where you build it. And let me read the slide. Create and customize agents for employees and digital channels. It's where you define the topics, the instructions, the actions, and Apex as well. Because when we go to clients and they have advanced requests, we often go to Apex to code the functionality so the agent even becomes more capable. I said a few slides ago, if you're going to remember one slide, let it be this one. This one is also very important because it gives a nice example. So imagine that you're going to define your topics. What do you expect the agent to be capable of? For example, in this case, order management and repairs. Then channels. Where do you want to put your agent? Where does it need to be active? And then instructions. As in the example, always offer to look up order status using either order number or email, always look up return status, etc. This will allow your agent to classify the intent of the messages incoming. And then last but certainly not least is, do I provide my agent with the technical capabilities of performing these queries in order to fulfill the intent of my end user? Look up an order status, generate a return label, or as I showed you, answer questions with knowledge base articles. There's this one thing I want to show you, which is actually pretty cool. So if I go back to where I was, where does it sit? Here it is. Pum, pum, pum. And I'm going to the default Copilot. This one, I'm going to open up Agent Builder and open knowledge. Knowledge base, for those who know, is where you store files, procedures, answers to questions of your business. But when using Data Cloud, you are also capable of vectorizing blobs of text, making it retrievable, setting up a retriever. What does that mean? When you ask a question, it is capable of looking into your files, and the connections are really getting better and better. So if you have somewhere some PDFs, PowerPoints, even audio and video, the agent, when it's indexed, can answer questions about that. Now I have a little gimmick. So a book I read a while ago, Brief History of Mankind, Sapiens, written by Harari. I have manually uploaded the book. There's a lot going on there. And I quickly want to test it. So if I go to the start, so for example, the unification of humankind, sorry, what does that actually mean? So, well, I've put the PDF in my data cloud. My agent, this one, should now be capable of answering that question. What is the unification of mankind? I haven't tested this one, but I've trust. There you go. It looked into the PDF, it makes the summary for me and answer my question. Let me give a more technical example. I also have the long anticipated Tableau Next from Salesforce. Is a new version of Tableau. I have been looking to the user guide the past few days. I have also uploaded this to my agent. I read it, I forgot something. I don't want to go back to the PDF. Maybe we should set up an agent that helps me and our consultants to retrieve some information. So, for example, I set up the Slack integration earlier this week. I forgot how I did it. How do I integrate Tableau Next into our Slack? Intent classification should make it clear that I'm asking something about that PDF because he knows what's in the PDF. There you go. To integrate Tableau Next to Slack, these are the steps. I think that's very powerful. Now, for you guys, think about all the business processes that are written down in PDFs, Words, on file sharing systems, all the data you thought maybe at one moment in time, why the hell do we actually keep all those files or information on our shared drives? It's time for this type of data to really get shining. Maybe even, I know a lot of people do it these days when having a meeting. Is it okay if I record it? They get the transcript, summarize it, send it back to you. Why not actually host meeting transcriptions or the summaries somewhere that if you have a question about what did we say back then about this and that, make sure it gets vectorized, make it searchable, set up the retriever, and you are capable of asking questions about your own business. All right, let's proceed back to the PowerPoint. Topics, channels, instructions, and actions. With 10 minutes to go, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Agents is not for one department. It's not only for the service operators. It's for sales. It's for shopping environments. It's for the marketing department. Everybody can start thinking about their use cases and how they can increase their AI maturity. So how it worked, I briefly discussed it. There's a trigger, somebody sends a message to your bot, be it in Slack, chat, or voice, where I expect a lot from. Then the message gets sent to an LLM, but with the context of your business. Then the agent decides the topic, tries to answer it, and answers to your user. Okay, gonna skip this one. Worth mentioning, Salesforce has the Atlas reasoning engine. It's the second generation of reasoning, which really, whenever dealing with questions, it plans, it evaluates, and it refines actually on the spot. Kinda that behavior you might have already noticed when playing around with the latest GPT functionalities. You really can see the bot, the agent reasoning in what he's preparing to answer you. Now, important slide again, the Einstein trust layer. What's in the system should stay in the system. It should be a secure thing because there are voices that say, be careful with your agent because if you don't configure it well, you might have just implemented an internal hacker. And if it's not done right, there's something to say about that, but I want to point out a few of these squares. First of all, dynamic grounding. The agent knows, when you're talking about internal agent, where you are and who you are, so it will not answer questions you are not entitled to. There are prompt injection detection. Imagine there is somebody with bad intent saying things like, what is the password of my colleague? It will detect that you're going you're going off topic or you're saying things that you should not be asking, so the agent will not respond. Another one part of the trust layer, input and response toxicity. If people are talking racist, sexist, or in a very bad way to your agent, Agentforce will detect that. It will log it. It will write it to objects where the conversations are logged, people can be addressed and can be held responsible for the information they have put into the system. You see that the square goes both ways, both from the input side, what goes through the LLM, as what comes back from the LLM. You don't want to have an unhinged, rude agent answering your customers. So by, first of all, setting the tone, but second of all, also monitoring the response toxicity, Salesforce makes sure that the responses are business correct answers you want your customers to read. Then data masking and zero retention. None of the data that you will send will actually be stored by the LLMs you're sending it to. Which thing I want to quickly show you is where the trust layer sits. Let me quickly open it, because showing it sometimes make it more clear what it is. Data masking. So if you go to setup through trust layer, we have this thing called the Einstein trust layer. In my case, it's turned off, but it has pattern-based and field-based masking. What does that mean? For example, if you don't want that credit card numbers in any way are part of the conversation or should be explicitly visible, you can mask them, that those numbers are never visibly on the screen. Same thing with IBAN codes, password, name, phone numbers, etc. If you want to make sure that that part doesn't get sent to the LLM dealing with the query, you really want to keep it in your system, you can put on the masking and make sure that it gets safe. A lot to unpack here. It can be set at the column level, pattern-based. You can even set compliance categories and data sensitivity levels. On a column base, you can really say, oh, this is confidential. Only this and this group of people can query this information. Or yeah, we're going to put this on our Experience Cloud side. This is public. Anybody can ask us about our shipping policy, just to say one thing. Very interesting. Definitely a discriminator versus the competition. With 6 minutes left, I'm going to speed up a little bit again. Citations. Agents are in the media known for their hallucinations. When they say something, it's very normal to ask yourself the question, is that really true? Where did you get that? Citations is actually a self-check. The agent will answer, but with a reference to the source where he got that answer from. In knowledge-based context, it's very easy. Do we ship to Italy? If you literally have a document where it says we ship to this country, it will provide you the link where he got that information from. Citations are a way to make sure that the hallucinations are being reduced and that the agent grounds his knowledge even better in his responses. Then, audit trail and feedback. Oh my God, a lot to say about that. Basically, every move, every conversation that's being held with the agent is being logged. I expect a lot of tools being developed in that context, because agents, you don't put them somewhere and then you leave them. No, you need to monitor them, you need to evaluate them, retrain them maybe, give them less permissions, more permissions. Salesforce has put everything in place to really monitor that. There's a whole body of reporting already available to really validate what is going on. And then, of course, analytics, that's already part of what I just said. That's a lot of information just to say there is an end-to-end AI governance present in the Salesforce ecosystem. Agents are not unhinged. They operate with guardrails. All right. Dynamic rounding, citations, already mentioned. I'm going to skip these ones. Now, what can it do for you? This is not a use case ideation session, but roughly speaking, these are a few things it can help you with. It can augment your workers. It can automate some of your business processes. It can enrich and manage data when done well. It has a conversation intelligence. You can offer context-aware personalized conversation suggestions. So for example, one of the things that has been rolled out very recently is the e-commerce shopper agent that helps your customers when on your site, offering them new recommendations, giving them when something is out of stock, alternatives, etc., etc. Code generation, coming from writing some code once in a while as well. I was very skeptical about it, but what we see in the broader landscape is, I think it was Google even that says it, we expect within the next 12 to 24 months, 80–90% of our code will be GenAI generated. That's a significant statement. CEO of NVIDIA saying, don't teach your kids to code, but make sure they master their language skills. Also a very bold statement, but I think we're seeing that this is slowly but certainly becoming more and more true. Being verbal, knowing language, knowing syntax, how are things structured, will become the skill of tomorrow. Prompt building can be very intimidating. And although all the AI tools and software we're seeing now popping up in the market have a lot of potential, new jobs will get created, and optimizing the orchestration of implementing agents is a whole new skill set we all need to acquire, both from the end user as from us as a consultancy implementing these kind of things. Then, of course, ID generation, analytics, content creation, search, and learn. Fourth very important slide, what doesn't it fix? It doesn't fix your data problems. Okay, yeah, you can use GenAI to maybe do some data cleaning. Imagine you have a blob text in the description field, distill some information about it and make it a structured field. These kind of things that can be done. But if your data warehousing is not fit for purpose, if you're not making it available for your systems to talk to your data, index it, you won't be capable of delivering some nice agents. Automating 100% of your workforce, that won't happen anytime soon. Of course, jobs will come end of life, given this being implemented everywhere. But humans are responsible for what should happen. What are our processes? How do we want our business to function? What is the process? How do I want the agent to work for me? Of course, there will be a loss of jobs, but new skills are required and new jobs are being made as we speak. It doesn't solve passively any business problems. The intent always needs to come from your side still. Maybe that will change in 10 years. And then it does not maintain itself, just like statistical models, model drift. Of course, you can have agent drift because agents are fed with live data, data being refreshed, new data coming in. So monitoring, improving, iterating, just like you are doing before, will become very important. Okay, I will go to my final slides. If you found this interesting and you're at the beginning of your AI journey, or you want to ideate some new use cases, we at Biztory offer a few formulas that we sit down together with you and see how AI and Salesforce with Agentforce can help implement with your AI strategy. So we have the discovery call where we really ideate what would be interesting for your business. Or if you say, hey, we already know what we want to do, we just need a partner to implement it in a thought through, documented and guided way, you also can get in contact with Biztory.